When it comes to As I Lay Dying, I never thought that I would be here. A year ago, if you asked me if I was going to talk about brand new As I Lay Dying music that was starting to come into development, I would have told you sternly no. That I would be joining some of the others, whether they be venues or fans, former fans, or just casual music lovers, in not talking about this group. Metal Sucks did the same thing. But here I am. I'm in front of a camera. We're going to be talking about As I Lay Dying, though very briefly and briefly alone. The events of the past 6 years have been an enlightening one, I'm sure, for Tim Lembestis. Going to prison for putting out a hit on his estranged wife only to find out it was an undercover cop had to be a moment that he truly felt his lowest. The steroid abuse was seen by many as nothing more than a giant excuse. However, the redemption that we saw was within his own bandmates, who themselves had started a brand new act in Woven War, but with Tim consistently reaching out and attempting to reconcile and make peace with all of them, it eventually led to the rebirth of this project. I know it's not going to be a popular move. Not everybody is going to agree. Some may feel that I'm going back on my word. I am willing to give this album and give this band a small chance, and I'll explain exactly what I mean right now. I will tell you that this album is out. It's in stores. It's entitled Shaped by Fire, and you can get it if you wish. This is an album that is 12 tracks in length, is pretty good, but it feels like standard fare for a comeback album from a band that has really a lot of wounds that need to be mended, and they are in the process of doing so. The songwriting does really showcase that tension that was no doubt flowing through the band as they were recording this album. Despite reconciliation, there no doubt still had to be some feelings of not really knowing who Tim was. And that was partially true, because as he left prison, the bandmates have stated that they didn't know this Tim, that it was a different Tim, a more positive Tim, a very apologetic, sympathetic, extremely guilt-ridden Tim, who was sorry for the actions that happened and wanted to make amends and make things right, and understood that it was going to take time. The album has some decent enough moments. I do love the blend between the cleans and the hardcore vocals that are seen here. I would have liked a little bit more intimacy with this album as opposed to it having a, mostly gruff exterior. This is one whose lyricism, though, also seems to be focusing a lot on rebuilding and also focusing a lot on guilt or understanding the mistakes of the past and the consequences that it causes during the present and incoming, or should I say oncoming, to the future. So for all of those things, this is a comeback and an album that feels like it is a little bit of catharsis. It's a little bit of letting go. It's a little bit of starting again. Almost like this band is brand new despite their reputation. But this album also suffers from the fact that it is a comeback album. That it's been a while since these guys have been together. They still sound tight. There's no error that you can really process here. However, it's just material that feels very run-of-the-mill. As I Lay Dying has been around since the first part of the 2000s, and this is a sound, metalcore, that we are extremely familiar with. Nothing about this really feels like it stands out and becomes a highlight of the subgenre itself or the genre of heavy metal as a whole. It is a very serviceable disc, and one that feels extremely average, if not slightly above average. And this isn't just based off of the subjective feeling that is projected toward Tim Lembestis. This is based off of an actual listen. The sound of metalcore may have been pushed to its absolute limit, to the point where now nothing that we hear, or at least nothing that I hear, truly feels like it jumps out of its element. Every genre reaches these growing pains, and they all find their way out somehow. Metalcore just hasn't quite made it to that point yet. It's an 18 out of 30. And this is an album that still, it's one that you have to purchase by it being your decision. It's one that you should listen to, be it your decision. This is not a place where I'm going to attempt to influence you into doing so. I'm not going to coerce you. I'm not going to try to change your mind. If you feel that you can't listen to this album based off of what Tim did in the past, then by all means, continue to do that. Stay strong. Stand true to your beliefs. But I feel this platform, even though it's going to be a very small one of probably just a couple of thousand people, is an important one in order to address the idea of domestic violence, or to address the idea of mental health issues, to address the idea that our health is very important. How we treat other people is exceptionally important. And how we handle and approach victims is extremely important as well. Sometimes whenever we take a look at big stars, we are sometimes jaded into belief that they can do no wrong. We feel that just because of the phrase innocent until proven guilty means that these folks are incapable of doing anything that is sinister or anything that is detrimental to their careers. We've seen throughout the past 10 years that this channel has been active, that there are some folks out there that don't give a damn about their own careers and have their own activities in mind and will do them regardless of their status or their stature. Ian Watkins from Lost Prophets comes to mind. But domestic violence is an extremely real and a very dangerous situation. And it's something where if you see it happening, you should certainly reach out. This is something that can't be and isn't simply just if you see welts or see markings. You might see or notice a change in demeanor or behavior. You might notice that the person involved is a little bit more reserved or fading into the background. Perhaps they feel like they're cowering a bit. Either that or their behavior does not appear to be consistent with the behavior that they had in the past whenever they were happy. It can take on many forms. It can take on many faces. And it's extremely important that if this is something that is happening to you, or if you know that this is happening to a friend, that you should certainly do something about it and speak up. Contact the number. Tell somebody who is in the know. Or if it's something that's happening within your own apartment building, within your own home, or somewhere in your community, call the police. Make your voice heard. Tim has been a man that is going to be on a lifelong path. And that lifelong path is going to be seeking the reconciliation of everybody that surrounds him. It's interesting that there's a song title on this album entitled My Own Grave, when the very thing that nearly caused him to have life in prison or become one of the biggest metal criminals in history was a plot to take his wife's life to an early grave. He's going to be on a lifelong mission of attempting to reconciliate with all of you, the fans, or just music in general, everybody around him. And he's making the effort, apparently. That's at least what the bandmates are saying. You can take it as hearsay, or you can believe that he's genuinely trying to take steps forward. And I think that he is, because I feel that he understands why As I Lay Dying may be missing bookings, why they really are not getting everything that they want, and why this comeback isn't heralded as a huge occasion. This is instead one that's being approached very gingerly. And for that respect, we need to remember that these artists are indeed human. They aren't divine. But also, if we ourselves have things that just are the final straw, if we have limits that we don't wish to be crossed, if we don't feel that we can support somebody based off of something that has taken place, we have the right to stick to our guns. We have the rights to walk away. There's an off button on the radio for just that reason. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is CoverKillerNation, and I'll talk with you next time. Take care.